In the rolling hills of the American West, where the horizon stretched endlessly under an open sky, lived a cattle rancher named Samuel Hart. Samuel was a man of the land, his days marked by the rhythm of the sun and the seasons. His life tethered to the animals and soil that sustained him. At 45 he had endured droughts, storms, and countless hardships, yet he carried within him a quiet resilience. His ranch was his world. Acres of grassland dotted with cattle, weathered barns, and fences that seemed to stretch toward forever. But Samuel was no stranger to the call of the wild. Horses, in particular, had always held a special fascination for him. He admired their untamed spirit, the way they moved as if the earth itself had given them wings. He had trained many in his lifetime, yet he knew that truly wild horses were never conquered. They chose whether to trust. And so, when a powerful Mustang appeared near the edge of his land, Samuel felt both challenge and destiny in its dark, glinting eyes. The Mustang was unlike any he had seen before. Its coat shimmered like burnished copper under the sun, its mane wild as storm clouds, its movements unpredictable and fierce. Samuel called it Ember. For weeks he tried to approach, leaving feed near the water trough, speaking softly, letting it see he meant no harm. But Ember remained untouchable until the day Samuel tried to rope him. It happened in the early dawn. Samuel saddled his best horse and rode toward the canyon where Ember often roamed. The air was sharp, the grass heavy with dew. He spotted Ember grazing on a ridge and slowly advanced, rope in hand. But the Mustang sensed the attempt, reared and bolted. Samuel spurred his horse, determined not to lose him this time. The chase carried them farther than Samuel had ever gone. Ember's hooves struck sparks on the rocky ground as he darted toward a narrow gap in the cliffs. Samuel pressed on, driven by instinct more than reason. Then in one sudden motion, Ember stopped, wheeled, and lashed out with his powerful neck. The rope Samuel cast was caught, but instead of bringing Ember down, the Mustang dragged Samuel from his saddle and pulled him through the cleft in the canyon wall. The world changed in an instant. Samuel tumbled down a slope of stone and moss, landing hard but alive. When he looked up, his breath caught in his chest. Before him stretched a valley hidden from the world, a place untouched by time. The cliffs rose like guardians on all sides, their sheer walls impossible to scale. At the heart of the valley, a river wound its way like silver ribbon, tumbling into a waterfall that sent mist sparkling in the morning light. Meadows of wildflowers spread across the floor, and groves of ancient trees cast cool shade. Birds sang in symphonies he had never heard, and deer moved unafraid through the tall grass. But what struck him most was the herd. Dozens of wild horses grazed peacefully, their coats gleaming in every hue: black, chestnut, palomino, dapple gray. Foals pranced near their mothers. Stallions kept vigilant watch. They moved as though the valley itself was their sanctuary, untouched by man's reach. And standing among them, mane lifted proudly in the breeze, was Ember. For a long moment Samuel simply stood there, overwhelmed. It was as if he had stepped into a dream, a world hidden within his own land, yet utterly unknown. Slowly he rose and began to walk. The horses scattered at first, wary of him, but Ember did not flee. The Mustang's eyes held his, steady and unflinching. It was then Samuel understood. Ember had not been captured. He had led Samuel here. As he explored deeper, Samuel discovered more than natural beauty. Along the cliff walls, half hidden beneath vines and moss, were carvings, ancient symbols etched into stone, spirals, figures of horses, hunters, and what looked like rituals of communion between man and beast. Further still, among the trees, he found the remnants of stone structures, long collapsed and overgrown. Doorways to a civilization lost to history, a people who had once shared this valley with the horses and revered them as kin. The realization filled Samuel with awe. I was not the first to walk here. Generations before, others had lived, thrived, and perhaps vanished, leaving only whispers in rock and ruin. And at the heart of their existence had been the horse, the same creature standing before him now, unbroken, eternal. Days passed in a haze of discovery. Samuel returned again and again, learning the hidden paths that wound into the valley. He watched the herd, noting their patterns, their unspoken language of movement and trust. Slowly, Ember began to allow his presence, approaching near enough that Samuel could feel the warmth of his breath. Yet Samuel never tried to rope him again. Understood now. Ember was not meant to be possessed. It was a guide, a bridge between worlds. With each visit, Samuel wrestled with a growing dilemma. The valley was a marvelous secret Eden. He knew that if he revealed it, scientists, explorers, and even governments would flock here. Fame, wealth, recognition, they could all be his. But the thought of bulldozers carving roads, of fences trapping the wild herd, filled him with dread. To expose the valley would be to destroy it. One evening, as the sun bled red across the horizon, Samuel sat by the river and made his choice. He would protect the secret. This valley was not his to own, not mankind's to exploit. It was a covenant between the earth and the wild, and he had been entrusted with its care. Ember seemed to sense the decision, standing beside him quietly, as though affirming his vow. Years passed. Samuel grew older, his hair silvering, his body slowing. Yet he kept the valley safe, never marking it on a map, never speaking of its location. He visited often, not as a conqueror, but as a guardian. The horses came to know him, foals born and grown in his presence, their trust unbroken. Ember remained closest, a silent companion in his twilight years. Eventually, Samuel did share his story, not the where, but the what. By firelight to his children and neighbors, he told of the hidden valley, the herd of untamed horses, the ancient carvings that bound people and horses together across centuries. His words became legend in Maple Creek, a tale passed from ranch to ranch, from town to town. He spoke not of conquest, but of respect, not of capture, but of trust. He told them that some places must remain untouched, some bonds honored, some mysteries left unsolved. His story inspired many ranchers, riders, dreamers, to see horses not as beasts to be broken, but as partners in the shared journey of life. When Samuel finally passed, they buried him beneath the wide sky of his ranch, with a carved stone bearing only his name and a simple engraving of a horse. On the day of his funeral, a wild Mustang was seen standing on the ridge above the ranch house, mane streaming in the wind. Some swore it was Ember, watching, honoring the man who had chosen reverence over dominion. The legend of Samuel Hart endured. It became a reminder that the wild holds secrets beyond measure, and that the greatest gift is not to own, but to protect. The hidden valley remained hidden, untouched by human ambition, preserved in the silence of stone and the thunder of hooves. And in every telling, Samuel's choice echoed. There are places we must leave whole, and bonds we must never break. For in the heart of the wild lies not something to be conquered, but something to be trusted, something to be honored as eternal.